Hello, everyone. Super excited to welcome you to today's webinar session. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening from wherever you're joining us across the globe. You are welcome to the Millennium Fellowship's Global Webinar 2025. We're super excited to have you here. I am the moderator for today's session. My name is Amoke Adewale. I am a Millennium Fellow for the class of 2025 and also a campus director at Ocean State University, Nigeria. I'm joining you from Lagos, Nigeria, and I'm super excited to have everyone on the call today and on the webinar. It's super amazing to see you all join. Thank you so much. I would like to invite the fellows to please introduce yourselves, your name, your country, your university, and just tell us a little bit about yourself. Introduce yourself in the chat box. I can see so many already. I see Stalin. Oh, I see Minhali from Pakistan. I see so many people. Blessing from Nigeria. Haven from Ethiopia. Please pardon me if I get any of the names wrong. I see Miriam from Nigeria. So many names. We are so global today. It's amazing to have all of you on the call. I want to share a little bit about myself. I already introduced myself. My name is Amoke Adewale. My project is helps to advance and drive impact by sharing awareness about non-communicable diseases and helping people to live better lives. And my project advances the SG3, which is good health and well-being. I've shared a little bit about myself. I want to invite any of the fellows who wants to share a little bit about themselves too, your name, your country, your university, and just tell us a little bit about your project. You can signify if you want to do that, hands raised, and we'll definitely bring you up. I still see so many introductions going on in the chat. Hello, everyone. Hello. I see someone from Pakistan. I see someone from Nigeria, from Malawi. We are so global today. I see someone from Afghanistan, from Mexico. Hi, Sebastian. We are so global today. Okay, I see raised hands already. I see some raised hands. I want to call, oh, pardon me if I don't get this name so right. Rian, if Dan, you want to join and introduce yourself,
hi.
your name. Hello,
yes,
hi. It's amazing to meet
my
you.
name's,
Want to introduce yourself,
nice to meet you too.
Okay.
Okay. So my name is Rayan. You can call it anything starts with R, it's fine. I'm a Millennium Fellow and I'm the campus director of Azaytuna University. I live in Libya, Terhuna, and my project is called Sahat 360, which is in English, Sahat 360. So it is something that this project talks about sustainability, not only about good health, but more of connecting all sustainable development together for bringing better health and better life for people in Libya, especially Terhuna, as I live in a country of a third world countries in the world, and we face a lot of difficulties in our life. Today, we're trying to bring something new to our city, and this is with the help of the MCN. Thank you all for supporting us with everything, and I'm so excited to hear Sam today.
Excited to meet you, Rian. Wishing you all the best on your project. Thank you. I see another hand raised. I see Miriam Odushola. Miriam, if you want to go ahead and introduce yourself, your name, your university, and a little bit about your project.
Hey, everyone. Hello. Can you hear me?
Hi, Miriam. Hello.
Hi.
Yes.
Yeah, hello. Yeah, I am Miriam Udushola, and I am a student of the University of Nigeria. Yeah, so I'm from Nigeria, Lagos, Nigeria, and my
seems like
project is
really
called Big Sister Initiative. Hearing? Can you hear me now?
Sure, please go ahead.
Can everyone hear me?
Sure, please go ahead, Miriam.
Yes, so
yeah, sure, please go ahead.
Sure. Project is called big Yes. So I said I am Miriam Odushola from the University of Initiative. And what we are doing is converting textile waste into sustainable products. And how we do this is we sort out pre-owned fabric and scraps, and then we turn them into reusable shopping bags, and also like focus more on women, educating them to like make eco-friendly choices and sustainable choices, basically. So that's what we do. Thank you.
Exciting, Miriam. Super brilliant and super exciting. Wishing you all the best on your project. I'm going to take one more. I see a raised hand, Amina Barati. If you want to come up, introduce yourself, your name, your university, and share a little bit about your project too. Happy to hear you.
Okay, am I audible?
Hi.
Hi.
Yes, sure. Please go ahead.
So my name is Amna Barati. I'm originally from Afghanistan, but I'm currently pursuing my bachelor degree of finance in United Arab Emirates, and we are a team of 8 members. Our project is called Zanhop, which is taken from a Persian word, woman, Zan, and we are focusing on the SDG 4, 5, and 14. The main point of our project is to empower women, since the situation of Afghanistan is a bit different from what the rest of countries. So we're helping young women and girls to create their own ventures and learn entrepreneurship programs in order to be innovative and solve a problem in their country or elsewhere. And I'm so excited for this session.
I wish you all the best on your project. We're excited, so excited to see you do more. So excited. Introductions can keep on going in the chat. I see so many people. We are super, super global today. It's exciting to have all of you. And I'd like to move on to the next segment of today's global webinar session. And I'll be introducing our speaker for today, Sam. If you'd like to indicate with a wave of hand or say something in the chat box. And yes, so welcome our speaker for today. Hello. Sam Vaghar is a social entrepreneur committed to helping young people own their voice and power to make a difference. With over 15 years of impact, co-founding and leading Millennium Campus Network, MCN, Sam has helped launch the Millennium Fellowship, a student movement for UN Sustainable Development Goals at 290 plus campuses worldwide. Sam has given talks at over 100 institutions worldwide, including at Harvard University, MIT, the White House, the US United Nations, the Vatican, and on speaking tours across 4 nations for the US Department of State. In addition to this, Sam has served on multiple boards, serving as an advisor to the executive director of the UN Women. Sam earned a Bachelor of Arts degree in 2008 from Brandeis University and a Master in Public Administration and MPA degree from the Kennedy School of Government at Harvard University in 2021. During his studies at Harvard, Sam was selected as a Gleesman Fellow and at the Center for Public Leadership. Sam has received 2 honorary degrees and also served as a commencement speaker at Monmouth University in 2020. His work, writing, and contributions have been spotlighted by the Boston Globe, CNN, Fast Company, and more publications. Sam, we're excited to have you today.
I'm excited to be here. Thank you for the really kind introduction.
We are really, really excited and super, super, super interested in everything that's going to happen in the meeting today. If you'd like to just say a little bit of intro to the fellows on the call and just.
Of course. Well, I'll start by just saying thank you to all of you for making time in your busy days to be together and for having me. It means a lot to be able to spend time with all of you. And I'll start with the end, which I like to do. And I will just drop my I will drop my Instagram, my LinkedIn, my WhatsApp, everything in the chat. And so you can connect with me wherever you prefer. I'm also on Facebook and X and many different spaces, but would certainly love to connect and stay in touch with as many of you one-on-one as possible. My name is Sam Vaghar, based in Boston, Massachusetts, in the US. Pronouns he, him. This is my 18th year with Millennium Campus Network, MCN. And I alluded to this in the Global Town Hall, but this all started when I was an undergraduate. I read two books that changed my life. One is a book that I recommend to everybody I meet with, and that book is Mountains Beyond Mountains. And the book Mountains Beyond Mountains, it tells the story of a doctor named Paul Farmer and an organization, Partners in Health. When Paul was 23 years old, he stole medical supplies from Harvard, brought them to Haiti, volunteered, became a doctor, worked 35 years in, well, many different countries around the world, shaping public health. And what was so powerful to me about the work of Dr. Farmer and Partners in Health, what resonated was not just they were advancing public health, but it was my first understanding of the notion of healthcare as a human right, and that we have the power individually and even more so collectively to shift public narrative. And in shifting public narrative around an idea like health, you can shift public policy, public opinion. And so that really spoke to me in reading Mountains Beyond Mountains. I then read the book, The End of Poverty by the economist Jeffrey Sachs. And taking these two books together, Mountains Beyond Mountains and The End of Poverty, they elucidated for me the orders of magnitude of challenges that communities face every single day, but that we also have agency to respond to those challenges, especially as young people. And so as a 19-year-old, I put down those books, picked up the phone, cold called, cold emailed Professor Sachs, went down to Columbia University 2 days later, met with his team. And I said, look, I'm a second-year student at Brandeis University in Boston. I don't have many answers yet, but I know that we can do more. I know we can do more to tackle extreme poverty. I know we can do more to advance. At the time, it was the 8 Millennium Development Goals at the UN, now the 17 Sustainable Development Goals. I want to figure out what role we can play as students in advancing these goals. And so I came back to campus, started small public health fundraisers. In the fall of 2007, convened student organization leaders from across the city of Boston. And we said, look, we're all focused on making a difference, but we're doing this work in silos. Those silos minimize our impact, minimize diffusion of knowledge. What would happen if we collaborated? And 6 months later, we had our first summit at MIT with 1,000 student leaders from around the world, with Paul Farmer and Jeff Sachs and John Legend and grassroots civic leaders. They all joined our board of advisors. They said, we're in, let's help build a student network for the goals. I said, I'm 20 years old. I'm not sure what this is just yet, but let's give it a shot. And so we launched Millennium Campus Network, MCN, as a platform to support civically engaged undergraduates in our dorm rooms. That was 18 years ago. And so we've been on this 18-year journey supporting young civic leaders, Millennium Fellows, each of you on this Zoom today, and thousands more. We've served more than 20,000 undergraduates to date directly. And it's been an incredible journey, and we can get into lessons learned, what's worked, what hasn't, learnings from each. But most importantly, we've centered young people in the process of making change. And my North Star in all of this is helping young people own your voices and your power to make a difference, not just in the short term, but owning your voice and your power to make a difference throughout your civic lives. Really setting you up to continue your civic leadership whether it's your vocation and your work, whether it's an avocation and something you're doing on the side, but that it's fundamental to who you are in your life long after you've not just graduated the Millennium Fellowship, but also after you've graduated undergrad. So I'll pause there. I can share more about the model. I can share more about our learnings, and then obviously I'm here for all of you. So if there are particular questions or things you're thinking about for your own work or civic leadership, I'm here to be a resource now, and obviously for weeks, months, and years to come.
Thank you so much, Sam. You've shared such a story of resilience, such a story of dedication, and such a story of impact. And I'm sure Millennium Fellows on the global webinar do have a lot of questions. I also have a few questions for you. I would like to invite the fellows with questions. So please go ahead and start dropping your questions in the chat box. We'll come back to them later. So Sam, my first question for you, you've been really specific on the number of years you spent with MCN. You have dedicated almost 18 years building the MCN community and developing the Millennium Fellowship into a global catalyst of change. Looking back, what is one moment that made you realize this is bigger than you first imagined?
It's a great question. There have been many moments like that. I think one that, that stands out kind of most obviously to me is that first summit that we did, which I mentioned. But for many of you, I know many of you are just starting out with your initiatives. Some of you have already launched initiatives, and sometimes you set big goals or aspirations, and you're like, oh, we'd love to have 50 or 100 or hundreds or 1,000 young leaders come together around something. And it doesn't always work that way, at least not the first time. And so when we had that, we had done a couple convenings that were smaller, couple things where we had space for, several hundred people, and not that many people showed up. So when we actually did an event where, you would see hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of people all coming together, that was definitely a moment to us that it was a signal that we were on the right track. And yeah, just feeling the energy, like when you go into community and into space together and you see people organically connecting because they feel a level of authenticity, as some of our advisors talk about, just the level of authenticity to the community. That moment, April 2008 at the MIT campus, seeing all these young leaders around the world with global leaders sharing space and trust, it validated the idea for us, and definitely gave me confidence to keep going post-graduation.
That's amazing, Sam. And I picked one word you said, you kept saying authenticity. And that brings me to my next question, Sam. With social impact, it's probably very easy to get lost in the buzzwords and to lose the authenticity behind the ideas and the drive for impact. So what would be one advice that you could share with Millennium Fellows to ensure that we do not lose the community-driven and led aspect of our social impact work?
I would say it's really important to, and it's hard to do this, I know, sometimes when you're at any stage of life, but I know probably many of you are like 18 to 25 years old, maybe some a little bit older. But at that stage of life, it's kind of hard to imagine what life will look like when you're, if let's say you're 70 or 80 or 90. But to the extent you can, really think about, what does it look like to build and lead a civic life? what is that? What are the characteristics of a civic life that are meaningful to you? What is it? What would it take? What are the conditions that would need to be in place for you to sustain that kind of leadership throughout your life, not just today or tomorrow or during the duration of the Millennium Fellowship, but for years and decades? I think there's an authenticity in asking that question of yourself. And there's no one right answer, but it's really hard to, it can be really hard to live that out, because there are so many pressures, internal and external, that push us away from that. But I think, yeah, to get to that authentic place is to be really honest with oneself about why we're doing what we're doing and why you're doing what you're doing, what it would look like to really sustain and grow your civic leadership over time. That I think is, I think asking that of yourself, and obviously working towards the short term and today, but also thinking aspirationally about your civic life over decades, I think is a really important framing, that it's hard to be inauthentic when you're just speaking openly to yourself.
Thank you so much, Sam. That was a beautiful answer. I heard honesty, I heard vision for the future, and I heard community-driven impact. I have so many more questions to ask, but I see a lot of people dropping questions in the chat box, and I'd like to throw one question from the chat. Question from Sad Tariq. He says, my question is that how can anyone ace his leadership skills if he's less confident in the crowd?
Yeah, it's a good question. I've got a couple thoughts, but I'm curious to hear if you have any advice on this question too.
Okay. I do think that you can practice confidence. Confidence is practicable. And I do believe that when there is honesty and there is heart at what you are doing, it naturally pushes you to want to share. So over time, you do get to use your voice about speaking about what you need to, either in a crowd of 100 or 1,000.
Yeah, I agree completely. And the reason I could just tell, like, you exude that confidence. I mean, you're speaking the over 400 Millennium Fellows right now, and bringing that confidence so clearly. So I think that's, one of the beautiful truths is that, and why we've built this community is, it's not really about, any one person having all the answers. I certainly don't. And so I turn to you because I'm hoping that for each of you as Millennium Fellows, that's what you'll do. Tap into your cohort of Millennium Fellows on your campus, and then virtually with Millennium Fellows around the world. You all have so much lived experience, 18 plus years of lived experience each, and a lot of insight to share with each other. So I want to lean on that. And I think building on what you shared, I would just say start small. Again, like, before you do an event for 1,000 people or set some huge goal to raise $1 million, starting with a goal of, hey, what would it look like to meaningfully convene 10 people or 5 people or 3 people? What's a meaningful measure of impact, something meaningful to us that we can work towards over a set time period? Because when you see success and experience success, or learnings even from failure, if it's something shorter term, that can set you up. You grow confidence because you've had experiences that you can authentically speak to. So that would be my advice. It's a really good question. I'm still working on it myself, so I definitely empathize.
Thank you so much, Sam. Thank you. That was an amazing answer. I still see a lot of beautiful answers in the chat box as well. That's so beautiful. I want to invite more fellows to raise your hands if you do have questions. We will call on you very soon to ask your questions. But before that, Sam, I do have one more question. This question is from Testing. He says, movements often start with passion, but risk burning out without structure. How can young leaders design their initiatives so they don't just speak change, but sustain it across generations? That's a great question.
Yeah, I think that actually goes to the advice I asked early on. It's, I'm just transparently, I'm really fortunate 18 years in to this journey with MCN. When we were starting out, I'm sure you all will know this, but funding and resourcing young civic leaders to do anything is historically pretty difficult. It's not an easy thing to draw resources for. And you all, like Millennium Fellows, most of you are the ones actually doing work in community, frontline work, proximate work around particular issue areas. We're like the connective tissue that sits to support, the platform to support. So it's even like a step removed. So, that can be very difficult to find resourcing for. And so when I was starting out, I was fortunate that my parents let me move back home with them because rent was we weren't gonna raise enough money in the beginning to be able to sustain. And that obviously really helped. But what sustained me, like the reason I'm in this 18 years in, what's kept me going and deep in my resolve over time, obviously, is meeting Millennium Fellows, doing the work. And I think it's kind of twofold. One, it's going back to what I shared earlier, having that perception or understanding based on really deep self-analysis of answering for yourself, what does it look like to live a civic life? What does it look like to lead in a civic life? Really getting clarity for yourself. What's your North Star? What do you care most about? For me, it's helping young people own your voices and power to make a difference. So that guides me in my decision making, what I do, what I won't do, where I'll focus my time and energy. I'm channeling energy towards work that I really care about. And then to avoid burnout, it's also recognizing that this is a marathon. It's not a sprint. Civic leadership it's a collective effort. Doesn't rest on any one person or one organization. I know that a lot of the incentives are misaligned to where you almost have to sound like you're saving the world or saving a community to get resourcing, et cetera. And I think it's really problematic, honestly. And so just recognizing that the whole world is not on your shoulders. This is a collective effort, and that a lot of this work will be generational work or multi-generational work. And so, we're here for a moment in time. As far as I know, based on science, planet's been around for what, 13.8 billion years. So we're here for this brief moment, and for this moment in time, we do all that we can, but also, at the pace at which there are times when I'm, burning midnight oil. I'm up till 1, 2 a.m. working, and then I'm up at 7 a.m. again, right back to work. But those are for seasons and specific times. And otherwise, there are times when I'm trying to pace it and take it easy and practice self-care, which is really important because otherwise, I know from experience, like there's no way if you're not practicing self-care and getting sleep and exercise and quality time with family or friends or other loved ones or people in the community you care about, or just self-care, taking care of yourself and loving yourself. If you're not fine or, seeking supports, therapy, other things, if you're not kind of taking care of yourself first, it's really hard to sustain over decades. That I can say for sure. So that's a beautiful question, honestly. And, I don't have a singular answer there. I just think, really take that time to reflect on, drawing the picture for yourself of what you want your civic life to look like, and and putting in milestones, things that could change, but also time to rest along the way that's built in, and time to practice self-care. Really important.
Thank you so much, Sam. I heard a lot of being true to yourself. I had a lot of structure in that response. So thank you to the person who asked the question. And most thank you to you, Sam, for that beautiful answer. I do have one more question. This is a question from Doris. Doris says, social impact requires a lot of resources. So now how do you handle that, especially when you're schooling with little to no funds? Again, how do you balance the implementation of your project and your academics and life in general?
Yeah, this is also a really important question. There are a couple considerations here. One that I want to lift up is that I would definitely recommend, where possible, starting with initiatives, projects, things that take as little resourcing as possible. There are exceptions to any recommendation, obviously, but generally, before we did an event for 1,000 people, we did a convening for 10 people. And we partnered with another student organization in the Boston area who could host it, so that they could get that space for free, so we didn't have to pay for space on a campus. So I say all that to say, like, find aligned partners, whether it's your university itself or other student organizations, whether it's local businesses or community centers, other stakeholders who can kind of shoulder some of, like, take on some of the responsibility and ownership of this with you. It doesn't mean they necessarily have to put in money. It could be other things that are non-monetary but helpful. But think about all the different stakeholders in your community who might add value. Maybe it's a faculty member who can serve as a true mentor or advisor. Maybe it's an administrator at the university who has connections to prominent alumni. Again, maybe it's local business, maybe it's local government, maybe it's other NGOs, local civic organizations, but who out there can provide some degree of resourcing that might be helpful. Two, beyond local resources, there are, if you use tools like AI and other things, you can see through searching databases that there are different resources out there in terms of financial resources or otherwise that can be additive. So I think about, as examples, some of these you will have heard of. One is called Echoing Green, and Echoing Green, they provide, I think it's now $80,000 or $100,000 US per social entrepreneur that they select for their fellowship. And it's looking for early stage social entrepreneurs. So typically people who are 0 to 2 years into their journey. So there are funders who are in this venture philanthropy space, like Echoing Green, with funding that's open globally. I think we just emailed everybody about Lever for Change is another example where they just put out a climate call where they're giving 25 youth-led climate organizations worldwide $1 million grant each. There's funders like the Pollination Project or Resolution Project. Resolution Project funding undergraduate social entrepreneurs. The Halt Prize, obviously larger scale, $1 million prize. But all that to say that there are these resources out there. You all are absolutely qualified to apply for these, and and your Millennium Fellows, which is something to definitely lift up. You were selected from over 60,000 applicants for this experience, so that's already a testament to your leadership, something you can put on your LinkedIn, on your resume, CV, etc., as a signal to funders and others who you're applying to. And then similarly to I'll just lift it up. But there are different scholarships out there. Obviously, we just did the one that we do each year with Coach Dream at Real Time's Coachtopia Scholars Program. But there are others too, and I also think about that in the context for any of you who are thinking about graduate school. There are so many programs out there that provide partial or full funding. And so, at least in a US context where I am, if you type in the name of the university and then you type in the program and add the words financial aid, oftentimes you can see a list of scholarships, some open just to students here in the US, some are global. And so, that exists in so many contexts and spaces around the world. I know we had Tina from MasterCard Foundation speaking at the town hall, and obviously MasterCard Foundation does a number of scholarship programs for undergraduate and graduate students. Yeah, so there are resources out there, and I would just say, like, do some of that research to identify obviously local connections and resources, but also those that may be available nationally and globally. And then if you find opportunities that are relevant, reach out to individual people. And what I mean by that is, use a tool like LinkedIn or something else to find to find individual faculty members, staff members, program officers at foundations, um, you know, team leads in a local business, you name it. But reach out not to the business like an info at or contact at email address. Don't spend your time doing that. Find individual people who feel aligned for you and reach out to them and try and make a connection with them. And just let them, make it about their leadership, Google or whatever, spend time learning about them, and just share that you'd like to learn from their leadership and get their advice on your journey, your civic leadership, your academic pursuits. Make it about them as much as it's about you, and that'll open up a lot of possibilities.
Was an amazing answer, Sam. Your answer was super, super resourceful. I'm pretty sure all the fellows on the call have gotten more than one idea on how to move about that. And I still see so many hands raised, and it's time to take questions from the Millennium Fellows. And I want to call on Rian. Rian, please share your name, the country you're calling from, the university, and your question.
Okay, my name is Rian. I'm from Libya and I'm the campus director of Al-Zaytuna University. My question for you, Sam, is have you ever approached a potential support or stakeholder and have been turned down? If so, how did you deal with it, especially in moments where it feels discouraging and you start to doubt yourself, whether you will ever ensure strong partnerships or support?
It's a great question. It's a great question. And I kind of chuckled to myself because most of the time we're getting turned down. Honestly, it's and it can be disheartening. It is disheartening. I mean, I can just share that as somebody in year 18 with MCN. It's still hard. It's still hard. And most of the people that we reach out to say no. So just to give you that context, like probably 1 in 15, no, not even. It's a small percentage. I'd have to look at the data, but it's a small percentage who say yes. And the reason that people will say no varies. It can be that they have a very specific portfolio and set of goals that they have, and the work doesn't fit neatly in that portfolio. It can be that they just don't feel the work is important or urgent compared to other priorities. It could be that they just don't really connect with you on a human level, and they're like, no, it just doesn't feel like a fit. There's a whole host of reasons why people say no. What I found, I mean, what I would just share there is that we also have had a number of experiences where people will say no, but if you keep them updated and you add value, then sometimes those no's change later. And what I mean by that is I've learned, Ron Cordes of Cordes Foundation taught me, a great mentor and role model. He said, look, any meeting you're going into, you can ask 5 magic words. It's 5 magic words in a question, in the form of a question that changes the dynamic of that relationship. And I've tried this many times, and it's true. And the 5 magic words to ask when you go into meetings, it's how can I help you? And that's so important because, especially as a younger leader, often when you go into a space, it's like, hey, I'm here because I need something. I need funding for my project. I need funding for my education. I need an internship. I need a job. There's like a lot of needs, which is valid. But that person you're talking to, even if they're their most powerful person, they're human too. So they have needs too. They have their own aspirations and goals for their civic life and the work they want to achieve. So asking, how can I help you, is really humanizing them and valuing their own contributions beyond what they might do for you. And, when you ask, how can I help you, either they might say, there's nothing you can do, like, but I appreciate you asking. They're going to be like, thank you for asking. Or they might recognize, hey, you know what? We're trying to get Gen Z input, youth input on a project or an idea we have. Could I run this document by you or connect you to one of my colleagues? That becomes really helpful, because once you show you're adding value, uh, people feel more inclined to then want to also turn around and support you in some way too. And I saw this with one of our partners, where we reached out and they said, oh, you're not quite a fit for what we're doing. And then they were looking for a partner in a different part of the world to align with. And I said, hold on, we have a global network. I'll do some research. And I spent probably a full week, like, doing a deep dive, making specific introductions to organizations that could be aligned for their work. And they came back to me and they were just wowed. They were like, wow, the fact that, you took the time, clearly you all have built this network, you can add value, and, you really stepped up when we asked. And so now yes, like, we've been looking for a partner for this other thing and we want to do it with MCN. So all that to say that, a no is not always a permanent no. But really think about, if you're going to meet with anybody, how you can be adding value for them, not just what they can do for you. And I think that change sometimes, not always, but sometimes that will change a dynamic, and yeah, it can get to a great outcome.
Thank you so much, Sam. I heard so much. I hope your question has been answered. Rianne, thank you so much.
Yes,
I
it
see
was
so
so
many more
inspiring.
hands
Thank
raised.
you.
Thank you so much. I see so many more hands raised. I still see more questions in the chat box. I want to invite the fellows to keep asking more questions. I'll be calling on Oluwatobiloba Ayede. Hi, Oluwatobiloba. If you're there, please introduce yourself, your name, your country, your university, and your question for Sam.
Hi, good afternoon, good evening, good morning, wherever you are. My name is Aide Oluwatobiloba, and I'm from Nigeria. I'm from Nigeria, and my school is Babcock University. Yes, okay, so thank you so much, Sam, for all the answers you've given. You've actually answered a lot of the things that I asked. I just wanted to clarify some things to have a better understanding. So I don't mind if you can explain properly how, because you mentioned in a town hall meeting that all this started from your university dorm room 18 years ago. How were you actually able to make this dream of creating such a large network community such as this to come to reality? Like the people you met, the things that you had to do underneath, like how are you actually able to convince them to be able to see this huge dream of yours? Because this is actually like a huge thing and such a big deal, and usually not as easy. Like I know it's, yes, I understand the whole dream big and all those things, and it makes a lot of sense, but how were you actually able to go from that to here, like those early steps you took early on that made you even get to that point where you could even add value and all those things? Because I know it must have been a lot. So I don't know if you really get my question, but yeah, thank you very much.
Yeah, it's a great question. I guess a couple things that we did well, and a shout out to Seth Werfel, our co-founder, friend of mine from my undergrad years at Brandeis, because I wasn't doing this alone. And credit due to Seth and to other classmates at Brandeis. Many, I mean, Jamie and Jacob, and it's a long list of leaders who stepped up, and then subsequently Alex and Will and Justin and many different people along the way. I mean, Claire, there's a long Anne Lou. I mean, when I think about how we've built what we've built, it's been a true team effort, and a lot of different people have contributed at different stages of MCN to get us where we are. So yeah, it's, I don't know what percentage of credit I am owed, if any, like 0.5% or less, like some tiny piece, because truly it's a massive grassroots civic movement led by young people. And tactically how we did it, I think we were really intentional and thoughtful about branding and positioning. I think how you frame ideas is really important. So like I think we were savvy to do. We had a great partner in Anne and her organization at MIT to host the first summit at MIT, because it was like, wow, people know MIT, like it's a global brand. People are like, you could attract people from around the world. And then, through Anne and her organization on campus as a student org there, they had resourcing and access to resources on campus to pull off the first event. And then, it was just constantly thinking about who else, could add value. Some of it honestly is like real hustle work. Like this was Instagram definitely didn't exist, but Facebook did. So we would look up student organizations on area campuses and cold outreach. And it's not easy work. But not only cold outreach, my colleague Jacob at the time would actually go visit each of the campuses, go sit down with those student organization leaders in the cold of winter in Boston and say, here's our vision to build something bigger together. What do you think? And a lot of movement building and growing an organization is one-to-one relationship building. That's really what it is. So putting in that time to build one-on-one relationships is essential. I mean, if you want my honest answer, like that's the best thing you can be doing to grow anything, is like, you do the events for 1,000 people, but you really focus on one-to-one relationships. So taking somebody for a coffee or a meal that you think could really be helpful and you'd want to collaborate with, just show them that personal attention, that you care about them as a human being, and ask them how you can be supportive of their dreams and aspirations. And then they become more inclined to say, well, how can I help with your vision? And then on once you have an idea of what you want to do, I think it's really important and you can use AI and other tools to kind of sketch it out, but map out where you want to go. That's what we did. Like, where do you want the organization to be, not just tomorrow, but a year from now, 3 years from now, 5 years from now, whether you're leading it at that point or not. What could it look like, and what resourcing would it take to get there? And if you map that out in a nice looking deck, whether you use a nice looking deck or whether you use a short document, or a PowerPoint or what have you, then like you have a piece of collateral that you can share with people here. Hey, like now that we're meeting one-on-one, here's the vision that I have, but I want to amend it with your input, but this is directionally where we want to go. And then I would recommend, what we did is piloting. And in our case, our one of our major pilots was this big summit at MIT. We had done a couple of small events, but then one big one. But doing a pilot to show people that there was real value that we could implement at our vision in a way that was real, that was significant. And once you have some kind of pilot that feels meaningful, that you framed well, that you can share with others, then it becomes easier there's potentially more pathways to resourcing. And in this instance, we went to the UN, United Nations Millennium Campaign at the time. I remember we went and we asked for funding. And the first time we went, they said, that's nice that you care about the UN goals, but there's no way, yeah, we're not going to fund you because we get pitched like this all the time. So it's a no from us. And then waited a few months, did a little bit more work, went back a second time. I said, we'd love funding for building the student network for your goals. It's the UN goals. Like, won't you support us? They said, no, we're not going to fund this. We get pitched all the time. Went back a third time. No. Then we did that summit at MIT. We had a pilot and a proof point. We went back to them a fourth time. I'll never forget sitting with Anita Sharma from UN Millennium Campaign, and I was hoping for $2,000 or $3,000. I'd presented like a full budget of things, but that's all I was hoping for. She looks down at the budget. She looks back up at me. She said, how about $20,000 to $30,000? And I said, 30,000 sounds great. And that was our seed funding. That was our first like big grant, somebody to say yes. But it came after a lot of no's. And so, do what you can. That generally, like my recommendation, with limited resources, with like prototype what you can in a way that is proximate, that really honors local leadership, knowledge, context, but build it. Try something that if you feel like really could be additive, pilot it small scale. Think about how you package and frame and tell the story around it with photos, with video, with a testimonial or two, with data, a survey, what have you. Think about that packaging, collect that up, and then go share that story and share it widely, because you will get a bunch of no's, more likely than not. But you just need like that one yes, somebody to be that first one that can then lead to the snowball growing and getting others on board too. I love the question, and yeah, and we could chat more like one-on-one to give you the fuller answer, but that's basically how we a reductive story on how we started.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for answering my question. Thank you.
So much, Oluwatobiloba, for the question. Thank you, Sam, for the beautiful answer. I heard efficiency. I heard maintaining interpersonal relationships. It takes more than one man to build a village, and for the MCN, seems like the fourth time was the charm. There's so many more hands raised. I want to call on Faiza Azimullah. Please pardon me if I didn't get that correctly. Please introduce yourself, your name, where you're calling from, and your question for Sam. Thank you.
Hello, MCN. Hello, Sam. Hats off on such an inspirational session. I'm Faiza Azimullah from Quetta, Balochistan. Sam, you discussed your why and how towards how MCN began for you. I would like to know that what's your reason why that still keeps this vision alive today? Thank you.
It's a great question. The honest answer is it's all of you. It's each of you. It's the leadership you put in every single day, how you show up. You're doing this work because you care deeply about communities. And, oftentimes that work is, not always, but sometimes underappreciated, undervalued, underrecognized, all those things. Creating change can be really difficult at times, and it can be really lonely at times. And there were periods in my life, especially in high school, when I felt pretty lonely. It's just kind of like an outsider in high school, didn't really fit in, and I know what that feels like, and it's not easy. And so similarly, when you're trying to make a difference, oftentimes people will kind of look at you bemusingly, like, well, why would you even try, or what's the point, or nothing's going to work, the systems won't change. And it's kind of, radical to be hopeful. and I am because of all of you, genuinely. So that is a big part of what sustains me. And then part of it is just looking at history. Whether you look at the movement to end apartheid in South Africa, or you look at the civil rights movement here in the US, or you look at so many other efforts to center human dignity and preserve our planet in contexts around the world, young people and intergenerational movements have driven so much of what makes us better. Better public policy, better shaped policies, and more resilient communities. So much of that has been built by intergenerational movements and the energy and ingenuity of young people. And I feel like that's a story that's still not widely understood in the ways that it could or should be. And I was really inspired learning about SNCC in a US context. So I don't know how many of I know there's Millennium Fellows all over the world, but SNCC, the Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee, I think about these moments. I think it was April 1960 at Shaw University when a couple hundred student leaders came together, and Martin Luther King Jr. was there, and different leaders were there saying, "Hey, basically, we want you to become a student arm of our organization." And one of my kind of aspirational role models from history is Ella Baker. And Ella Baker was adamant. She was like, no, the students are not going to become an arm of another organization. They're going to have their own organization, and you all are going to help fund and resource that organization. And, when I think about what Ella and SNCC ended up doing, alumni of SNCC or like John Lewis and Diane Nash and incredible civic leaders and leaders in the civil rights movement, for me, what it affirms is that so much happens, so much change can happen that's better for humanity if we trust in young leaders and if we invest in young leaders. That I fundamentally believe in. I think it's not widely understood. And so that idea of trusting and investing in young leaders, that's what I want to put out into the world. And I think working with all of you, knowing your stories and knowing you personally, you're proving that that's true. And so, that's the narrative and the story that I want to help share out and convince philanthropies and governments and businesses and other stakeholders to trust and invest in you. And a lot of that's rooted in history. All you have to do is study history to know that those investments have changed the world.
So much, Sam. That was a beautiful answer. I heard a lot about multi-generational impact, and truly we are beneficiaries of your vision, and here we are today. I still see so many hands raised. Oh, I wish we could go on and on and on. So many questions for Sam today. I see the fellows are very, very engaged. Sam, last one. I do have one more question for you. This question is taken from the chat box and is from Faith. And Faith says, thank you so much, Sam. Your story remains so inspiring. And I would like to read those books. They sound quite inspiring. I would like to ask, what's a challenge you faced in your 18-year journey with MCN that became a turning point? And how did you bounce back from it? Also, any advice on measuring and communicating project impact?
Well, I got the first part. What was the end of the last question of the second question?
Okay, the last question was advice on measuring and communicating project impact.
Awesome. So turning point and impact. On impact, I'll start there. If you go on millenniumfellows.org and you go to, and maybe Vlado or Adrija can drop the link in the chat. But if you go to our website and you click under the impact section, you can see our impact reports. I think it's a great place to start because it mixes stories and data. You all, at the beginning of the fellowship, I think everybody does a survey at the beginning, and you're going to do one at the end. And so we're tracking to see, real authentically, like what works and what can be improved. And then we refine the program year over year based on that feedback. So, and then in terms of how to package and communicate that, it's things like that impact report. And there's tools like Canva and others out there that, or even using AI, where you can do it relatively affordably or even for free to help. I think there's such power in video, in videos, in images, in quotes. And then, yeah, if you do a pre and post program survey and compare data over time to see truly what's changed. I think that's powerful. If you work with alumni, like, checking in with your alumni beyond the scope of a program, that's powerful. But most importantly, as I've been taught, like, the data should, when it comes to the data, it should serve you. You're tracking data that's actually meaningful to you so that you understand more deeply your intervention, your program, your service, and what's working and what's not, and what could be better. That's the purpose of the data. It's not just to put together a report. It's really to understand more deeply what you do, and which parts work best. And then in terms of turning point, funny enough, about 9 years ago now, 9, 10 years ago, we were running out of money. We had done a few summits, I think 8 summits at that point, but we really hadn't found like a sustainable financial model. And I still remember a board member saying to me, Sam, like, this has been a good run. It's been 8 years, but maybe is now a good time to close. Like, you've had a good run. You had 8 years of impact. And there's no right or wrong answer. I mean, you can end something, as long as you're, transparent and open and kind of planning ahead. You can end things whenever you want or merge with another organization. There's nothing wrong with that. It can be really effective, to be honest. But 8 years in, we kind of took that time to reflect and say, like, where else could we take things? And so we did strategic planning. It was a really low moment because I think at a certain point we were just like a team of two, three, like we were really maybe two of us. And we're just like, where do we go from here? And we studied history. I think if I remember correctly, we read Mandela's autobiography. We read different pieces, articles, really trying to, again, understand the role of student leadership, student civic leadership, where it fits in the context of movements and history, and what its parameters are, and then what are the gaps in the market. And that's where we landed on training, community, credentials, that if we could meet those three gaps, training, community, and credentials, which we do through the Millennium Fellowship, that we could add value. And then it was, once we had clarity and a positive vision of where we wanted to go, it was identifying the right partners to take us into that new chapter. Obviously, one of which, our incredible partner, United Nations Academic Impact, they had the vision to say yes. And that's not easy for them to do because, it's the UN and there's so many layers of people and it's a huge organization. It's very probably easy to say no and I would get it. But Ramu and the team at UN Academic Impact, to their credit, they said yes, which I really value and appreciate them saying yes. And then every team subsequently has continued to say yes and has even asked, well, how do we grow this and go deeper together? And that you need partners like that ultimately to make a vision reality and at scale. And we're really fortunate with the partnerships that we have. But it came from a really also difficult moment of not having all the resources and really kind of struggling. But where we found clarity was really trying to understand where we could add value. So for whatever stakeholders or community you're engaging, even if you're in a spot where you may not have a ton of money or even a lot of volunteers, really just getting clarity through conversations, genuine conversation with people. What are the gaps? Where can we add value, if anywhere? If not, then don't do the thing. But if you find that there's some clear gap where you feel like you can add value, whether it's through an existing organization or building out your own, if there's a clear opportunity, then yeah, sketch out a plan and find the right partners and reach out to them. Don't hesitate, or to the extent you can. I know everybody has fears, myself included, but finding ways, as I always say, like, persevere through the fear. Find ways you can acknowledge it, it's real, but find ways to navigate through it, to reach out to those who you think could be helpful in your next chapter.
Thank you so much, Sam. Like I would always say, if you're scared to do it scared, it will definitely get better. I think we can still take one more question. I want to call Jabin Basra. Please pardon me if I got that wrong. Please introduce yourself, your university, and your question for Sam.
Hello. My question is all about project. Oh, sorry, I'm Jabin Bushra and from Bangladesh, Green University of Bangladesh. And my question is all about project matter. And my first question is, will we be continue our project work during the training session, or will it start only after the training program ends? And my second question is if my project involves working with teams outside the campus, will I be allowed to continue with them, or is it strictly campus pilot based? Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Those are more technical questions. And I'll just say in terms of the work, like your actual fellowship initiative, your project, the intent is that you're applying what you're learning in real time. So you're doing these simultaneously. So yeah, whatever you've envisioned to work on, to be doing that now, to be doing things like the social impact tour video next month, like starting to really think about, you know, again, the storytelling element of sharing out what you're doing. And then, yeah, absolutely. I mean, if you have community partners who are aligned, and if you have the requisite permissions from whether it's a local nonprofit or your university as needed, then absolutely, of course, like this isn't just the Millennium Fellowship is about informed action. It's not just a thought exercise. We're not here to just, theorize about making a difference. There are real urgent challenges locally, nationally, globally, that you all have agency to respond to here and now. Obviously, we want you to be informed, and centering empathy and humility in how you engage, and not coming in as a savior, but really as a partner and collaborator. But if you're really thoughtful and asking questions and building collaboratively, and if you have the permissions, then yeah, like absolutely, engaging, is in many cases really powerful. And so that, yeah, that's my answer to those questions.
Thank you so much, Sam. I have had such an amazing time today. I hope all the fellows on the call have had an amazing time. I think you've dropped step by step, bit by bit, every single resource you need. I want to urge the fellows to take advantage of that job. You're sure to do a great job. Sam, do you have any closing remarks for the fellows before you leave?
Yeah, I want to say thank you to all of you. Thank you. I mean, it's amazing, more than 400 Millennium Fellows on today. And so I want to thank each of you for your time, not just today, but throughout the Millennium Fellowship, and not just throughout the Millennium Fellowship, but also as alumni for, years and years and years to come. I've been so fortunate to build incredible relationships with our alums. A lot of our alumni, a lot of our team are MCN alums. And then just a lot of friends around the world who I've connected with and stayed in touch with. So I've shared my information, and genuinely connect with me on Instagram, connect with me on LinkedIn, or wherever else on social, on Facebook, on X, on wherever you'd like. And then I put my WhatsApp in the chat, and genuinely, that's probably the fastest way to get in touch, via text. So if there's something quick where I can be helpful, that's the way to get in touch with me. Um, you know, Definitely, like, if there's more that you need from the Millennium Fellowship where you're like, this part could be better, that part could be better, we definitely want to see that in the post-program surveys. If there's stuff you like, share it. If there's stuff that could be better, share it. But also feel free to reach out to me directly if you have ideas, things that we could do to take the work to the next level. And want you to be even thinking now about, yeah, that social impact tour video in October. What kind of story could you tell about your why? what animates your civic leadership and the work you're taking on, and what's actually changing or being shaped in community with you. Because some of that, if you can think about that now and sketch out even what a 2-minute video could look like, then the more lead time, the better. And then some of that content I know we want to share at the graduation event, November 21st, and through our social media. And our newsletter now reaches more than 340,000 young leaders around the world. And so, we're always looking for powerful stories, calls to action, things that you're working on that we could help share out with young leaders around the world. So please count on me and MCN as a resource. We are here to support you, Millennium Fellows, and we're also just counting on you, counting on your leadership. If there are leaders that undergraduates who can apply for the class of 2026, they can fill out the interest form now on millenniumfellows.org. If there are faculty or administrators who are deeply supportive of you and your engagement as Millennium Fellows, we have a civic learning council we just launched, and so we could invite them to be a part of that. If you know leaders in philanthropy, we're always looking to resource this work and keep the program free in the way that it has been for undergraduates all around the world. And so introductions or recommendations on philanthropy is always deeply appreciated. Or media, and if you have friends, colleagues in media who could help amplify and tell stories of Millennium Fellows and this movement, that's powerful too. So please use me as a resource. Please keep in touch. I'm genuinely here to connect with each of you, as is our incredible team. And so looking forward to being on this journey, this civic life together with each of you. Thank you so much.
So much, Sam. We are equally excited about this journey, and I'm sure all the fellows on the call, I still see hands raised. We couldn't take so much questions, but Sam has shared his contact info. Please do well to reach out to him and share your questions, and he'll be very glad to answer, I'm very sure. Okay, that brings us to the end of our session. I do have a few announcements to make. I want to invite the fellows to catch up with the Millennium Campus Network on all their social media networks, and to keep an eye out on your emails for the details. Also, we have an upcoming networking and upskilling hour, which will be on the 6th of September, 2025 by 3 a.m. Eastern time. I want to invite fellows to make sure to join. It's going to be impactful just like this. Thank you so much, you all, for joining. Thank you, everyone, for joining. You were so global today. It's been exciting. Thank you, Sam, for all the amazing answers. We really, really loved having you today on the global webinar. Thank you all.
Thank you.